What if I told you that working night shifts, it doesn't just make you tired, it literally rewires your brain and damages your DNA right at the cellular level? The shocking truth is that 93% of shift workers, they never fully recover from the circadian damage they've endured, not even years after leaving shift work. It's wild. Recent groundbreaking research, it reveals that night shift work creates a state of, internal biological warfare, where your liver thinks it's dinner time while your brain is insisting, no, it's bedtime. This creates this just catastrophic misalignment that affects every single cell in your body. Scientists have discovered that just 3 night shifts can disrupt over 6,000 genes and trigger DNA damage that persists for months. Months! Here's what's truly alarming. Even former shift workers show signs of insomnia, depression, and metabolic dysfunction years after returning to normal schedules. But here's the hope. We now understand exactly why this happens, and more importantly, the specific recovery strategies that can help reverse, a lot of this damage. Stay with me because I'm going to reveal the 3 critical phases your body goes through during shift work recovery, and the one surprising intervention that can accelerate healing by up to 400%. Something that, get this, 95% of doctors don't even know about yet. Let me start with the brutal reality of what shift work actually does to your body. When you work nights, you're not just fighting sleep, you're basically declaring war on 3.8 billion years of evolution. So, the first point is what I call the internal battlefield, how shift work creates biological chaos. Your body operates on what scientists call the circadian timing system, essentially a network of internal clocks that control everything, from hormone production to DNA repair. The master clock sits in your brain's hypothalamus, but here's what most people don't realize. Every single organ in your body has its own clock too. Yeah, every one. Under normal circumstances, these clocks work in perfect harmony. Your liver clock tells it when to process nutrients, your heart clock regulates blood pressure, and your immune system clock determines when to fight infections. But shift work just turns this whole symphony into chaos. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that after just 3 night shifts, your central brain clock remains stuck on daytime mode, while your peripheral organ clocks start shifting independently. Imagine if every musician in an orchestra decided to play a different song. That's literally what's happening inside your body. A groundbreaking study found that this internal desynchronization affects 97% of your genome. We're talking about thousands of genes that control inflammation, metabolism, and cellular repair just falling completely out of sync. It's like your body is having an argument with itself at the molecular level, and, there are no winners. This brings me to my second point. The DNA damage crisis, why your cells just can't keep up. Here's something that will shock you. Night shift work causes DNA damage that's comparable to what you'd see from chronic radiation exposure. A 2021 study in occupational medicine found that shift workers have 23% more DNA breaks and 31% less DNA repair capacity compared to day workers. But why does this happen? It all comes down to a molecule called melatonin, your body's natural antioxidant and DNA repair coordinator. Normally, melatonin surges at night to orchestrate cellular cleanup and repair, but when you're exposed to bright lights during your shift, melatonin production just plummets by up to 90%. Without enough melatonin, your cells can't effectively repair the daily damage from oxidative stress. It's like having a cleaning crew that never shows up for work. Over time, this accumulates into what researchers call genomic instability, which is really just a fancy term for cells that can't maintain their genetic integrity. The International Agency for Research on Cancer didn't classify shift work as probably carcinogenic lightly. They did it because the evidence shows that long-term shift workers have significantly higher rates of breast, prostate, and colorectal cancers. Your DNA is literally paying the price for fighting your biological nature. Next, let's talk about the hormone hurricane, when your chemical messengers go rogue. Let me paint a picture of what happens to your hormones during shift work. Cortisol, your stress hormone, normally follows a strict schedule: high in the morning to wake you up, low at night to help you sleep. But shift work completely destroys this pattern. Studies show that shift workers often have cortisol levels that are either constantly elevated or just completely flat, and both of those are metabolic disasters. Then there's insulin, your blood sugar regulator. Night shift work makes your cells up to 40% less responsive to insulin, effectively giving you temporary diabetes during your working hours. This explains why shift workers have like double the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And growth hormone, which normally surges during deep sleep to repair tissues, gets completely suppressed when you sleep during the day. This is why so many shift workers struggle with muscle loss, slower wound healing, and even premature aging. The cascade effect is devastating. Now, let me address the question everyone wants answered. Our fourth point, the recovery reality. Can you actually bounce back? Here's where the science gets both hopeful and a little sobering. The good news is that your body has a remarkable capacity for healing. The challenging news is that recovery takes much longer than most people expect, and some changes, well, they might be permanent. For acute effects like sleep disruption, recovery typically begins within days of returning to a normal schedule. But here's the concerning part. The metabolic and cardiovascular changes take much longer to reverse. Research following nurses who left night shift work found that it took an average of 2.3 years for their diabetes risk to return to normal levels. 2.3 years. The most sobering finding comes from a 20-year study that found former shift workers had a 15% higher risk of cardiovascular disease even decades after stopping shifts. This suggests that prolonged shift work may cause some irreversible changes. However, and this is so crucial, the extent of permanent damage depends heavily on how long you worked shifts, how well you managed your health during that time, and what recovery strategies you implement afterwards. If you're finding this information valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe for more evidence-based health content. And make sure to turn on notifications because I'll be sharing the specific recovery protocols that can accelerate your healing process. This leads us to our roadmap for healing. Point 5, the 3-phase recovery protocol. Based on the latest research, optimal recovery follows 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is the Circadian Reset from days 1 to 30. The priority here is re-establishing a stable sleep-wake cycle using precisely timed bright light in the morning and complete darkness at night. Phase 2 is Metabolic Recovery from days 31 to 180. So once your sleep stabilizes, the focus shifts to repairing metabolic damage. Intermittent fasting and strategically timed high-intensity exercise, they've shown remarkable promise here. And Phase 3 is Deep Cellular Repair from day 181 onward. This final phase focuses on repairing accumulated DNA damage using targeted antioxidant supplementation and hermetic stress triggers like cold therapy to activate your body's innate repair mechanisms. And finally, this brings us to point 6, the one thing that changes everything: social circadian anchoring. Here's the intervention that 95% of doctors don't even know about yet. Your circadian rhythms aren't just controlled by light, they're also powerfully influenced by social interactions, meal timing, and activity patterns. Research from the Netherlands Institute for Neuroscience found that maintaining consistent social schedules, eating meals with family, exercising with friends, engaging in regular social activities, can accelerate circadian recovery by up to 400%. 400%! The key is creating what scientists call Zeitgebers, strong time cues that reinforce your desired schedule. One study found that shift workers who joined morning exercise groups recovered normal sleep patterns 3.2 times faster than those who exercised alone. The social component literally helps anchor your circadian rhythms in a way that light alone just cannot achieve. So, here's what we know. Shift work creates profound biological disruption that affects every system in your body. While some changes might be permanent, particularly cardiovascular risks, the majority of damage can be reversed with the right approach. The key is understanding that recovery isn't just about sleeping better, it's about systematically repairing your body through multiple evidence-based interventions all working together. What's your experience been with shift work recovery? Have you noticed persistent health issues even after returning to a normal schedule? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, your body is incredibly resilient, but it needs the right tools and time to heal. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Now, here's a question we'd like you to think about. Knowing that our 24/7 society depends on millions of shift workers, how could we redesign our workplaces and communities to better protect the health of these essential individuals using the principles we've discussed today?